And one of the most common experiences is the struggle of parents to find the best and earliest care for their children. The law requires that our public schools serve our children with special needs, but often the results fall far short of the service that they need and that they deserve. Even worse, parents are left with no other options except for the few families that maybe can't afford private instruction or therapy. And many of you parents here, you've been through the drill. You sit down with teachers and counselors to work out the IEP, the individual education plan for your child. And the school, no doubt, is trying its best. They're doing all that they can with the resources that they have, but they are overstretched. And they may keep telling you that, no, your child's progressing well and no extra services are required. They keep telling you that, but you know better because you know your child. And you know that your children perhaps are not getting all of the help that they need at a time when they need it most. The parents of children with special needs ask themselves every day if they're doing enough and if they're doing right by our sons and our daughters. And when our public school system fails to render help and equal opportunity, and even parents are prevented sometimes from seeking that help and those choices elsewhere, that to me is unacceptable. And in a McCain-Palin administration, we're going to put the educational choices for special needs children in the right hands, in the hands of the parents and the good responsible caretakers. Under reforms that I will lead as Vice President, the parents and caretakers of children with physical or mental disabilities will be able to send that boy or girl to the school of their choice, public or private. Under our reforms that we'll talk about, federal funding for every special needs child will follow that child. Some states have begun to apply this principle already, thankfully, as in Florida's McKay Scholarship Program. And that program allows for choices and a quality of education that should be available to parents in every state for every child with special needs. And this process should be uncomplicated and quick and effective because early education can make all the difference. And no barriers of bureaucracy should stand in the way of serving our children with special needs. And that's why John and I will direct the Department of Education to clarify the statute administratively. And we'll make explicit that when state funds are portable, that federal funds are fully portable. And we're going to make sure that parents have choices and children receive the education that they desire, that they deserve for their children. Because even the best public school teacher or administrator really cannot rightfully take the place of a parent making these choices. The schools feel responsible for the education of many children, but a parent alone is responsible for the life of each child and how to make that life better. And in the case of parents with children who have disabilities, then there are enough challenges already as it is, and our children will face more than enough closed doors along the way, unfortunately, until we really change the face of America and show that good heart of America in every aspect of our culture, of our society. So when our sons and daughters need better education, more specialized training, and more individual attention, the doors of opportunity should be open, and they'll be open in our administration. Like John McCain, I'm a believer in providing more school choice for families. And the responsibility for the welfare of children rests ultimately with mothers and fathers. And the power to choose should be theirs as well. But this larger debate of public policy should not be permitted to hinder the progress of special needs students, where their lives and their futures, their happiness is at stake. We should have no agenda except to ease the path that they are on. And the best way to do that is to give their parents options. In a McCain-Palin administration, we'll also fully fund the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Finally, it will be fully funded. It was to his great credit that President Gerald Ford signed the legislation that became the IDEA into law, establishing new standards of respect and inclusion for young Americans with disabilities. And from that day to this, however, the federal government's obligations under the IDEA have not been adequately met. And portions of IDEA funding have actually decreased since 2005. The size of the government is growing, the federal budget is growing, of course, and yet that aspect, that portion of the budget has actually been shrinking since 2005. So this is a matter of how we prioritize the money that we spend. The public dollars that we already have and are spending, this is a matter of reprioritizing. We've got a $3 trillion budget in this country, and Congress spends some $18 billion on earmarks for their political pet projects, and that right there is more than the shortfall to fully fund IDEA. Where does a lot of that earmark money end up anyway? You guys have heard some of the examples of where those dollars go. You've heard about the bridges, and you've heard about some of these pet projects that really don't make a whole lot of sense, and sometimes these dollars, they go to projects having little or nothing to do with the public good. Things like fruit fly research in Paris, France. I kid you not. Or a public policy center named for the guy who got the earmark. In our administration, you're going to see reprioritization there. You're going to see reform and refocus. And we're going to get our federal priorities straight and fulfill our country's commitment to give every child opportunity and hope in life. And for many parents of children with disabilities, the most valuable thing of all is information. Early identification of a cognitive or other disorder, especially autism, it can make a life-changing difference, that early diagnosis. And that's why we're going to strengthen NIH, the National Institute of Health. We're going to work on long-term cures for these, I don't want to call them diseases even, but we're going to work on these long-term cures. And in the short term, we're going to work on giving these families better information. Once a condition is known, parents, you know that you need then the best and latest information on what to expect then and how to respond. And this service is also provided for under the IDEA. What we've got to make sure is that every family has a place to go for support and medical guidance. And the existing programs and community centers focus on school-aged children, sometimes, though, overlooking the need for assistance before school age.